Okay, let's dive in. We're tackling something that's fundamentally transforming right before our eyes. The world of art and photography, thanks to digital technology.
Hmm.
It's not just about new ways to see art, is it? It's changing how it's made, shared, sold, even, well, understood.
Absolutely. And the sources we've pulled for this deep dive, they really capture that seismic shift
Yeah.
from a few different angles.
Yeah.
We have a fascinating look at a practical digital tool that's really empowering individual creators. And then alongside that, broader analyses of how platforms and the underlying tech are redefining the whole art ecosystem.
Okay. So our mission today is to basically pull out the key insights from these sources, those nuggets that help you, the listener, grasp not just the cool digital interfaces for art, but the really profound shifts happening beneath the surface, the things impacting creators, viewers, and, well, the very landscape of creativity itself.
Exactly. So where should we start? Maybe with the creators.
Yeah, let's do that.
This source, focusing on the digital photo gallery platform, seems like a perfect concrete example.
Yeah.
It shows how digital tools are putting really powerful capabilities directly into artists' hands, specifically photographers in this case.
Right. And it really seems to condense a whole professional workflow into like one place.
Hmm.
We're talking about serious image management, aren't we? Handling massive libraries, keeping track of thousands of high-res files.
Yeah, and the metadata too.
Metadata, right?
Yep.
That's the data embedded in photos, like camera settings or keywords.
Exactly. Organizing with keywords, sets, and all that tied into building a tailored website.
So portfolios, blogs, client areas.
Even shops.
Yeah, all integrated. And what's the real insight here? I think it's how this kind of system democratizes a professional presence.
How so?
Well, historically, photographers needed, multiple platforms or some pretty significant technical skill for all this.
Mm.
This source highlights no coding required.
And that's huge, right? It means artists can focus on their art,
Yeah.
not wrestling with web development or juggling different subscriptions.
Yeah, that makes sense. They call out some really smart details that show this empowerment too, like the simplicity of updating your website just by linking image sets.
Right.
Add photos to a set, and boom, they're on your site. Simple as that.
And the client delivery features sound like a bit of a game changer for the business side of things.
Oh, yeah.
Secure password protection, watermarks for proofs, controlling the resolution clients can download,
Okay.
and apparently finally solving those expired download link nightmares
Uh-huh. Yes.
with secure permanent client areas instead.
That alone sounds worth it. And selling directly.
Exactly. The integrated shop means artists can sell prints, products, services themselves.
And the source mentions, on their premium plans at least, no limits, no fees,
Mm,
no commission taken by the platform.
right. And seamless integration with secure payment providers like PayPal, Stripe.
Wow. So that's putting the economic power directly with the artist, isn't it?
It really is. It lowers the barrier for photographers to run a truly professional, direct-to-customer business. And the scalable plans, starting quite accessibly apparently, show it's built for everyone. From beginners building a first portfolio right up to established pros.
I like that detail the source included about the human element, too.
Oh, the team behind it.
Yeah, a small team in London offering friendly human support tutorials.
Right.
It's just a nice reminder that even sophisticated digital tools can have a personal touch behind them, not just some faceless algorithm.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so moving beyond specific creator tools, let's look at our next source, how digital galleries are revolutionizing access. This article examines the broader shifts these digital platforms are causing across the entire art world.
And the immediate standout point seems to be the democratization of art access.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about how digital galleries just obliterate geographical barriers and challenge traditional gatekeepers.
The insight here is, I think, pretty profound. For emerging artists, it means a global stage from day one, bypassing the need for, say, a physical gallery in a major art hub.
Right.
And for collectors and art lovers, it just opens up this world of diverse art and artists they might never encounter otherwise.
Regardless of where they live or who they know.
Exactly. It truly democratizes discovery and potentially even acquisition.
The source also points out an interesting impact on sales and pricing. Notes increased transparency.
Yes, that's a key point. Buyers get much more access to price information, which wasn't always the case, let's be honest, in the traditional gallery world.
True.
And crucially, when artists sell directly through these digital platforms, they often bypass those significant gallery commission fees.
Right, which can be quite high.
They can. So the article suggests this combination can lead to more competitive pricing, potentially making contemporary art more accessible, more attainable for a wider audience.
What about the viewer experience itself? The article highlights features like virtual tours.
Right? Moving beyond just static images on a screen, virtual tours offer, intuitive navigation,
Hmm.
makes exploring an exhibition feel almost physical.
Mm-hmm.
And the ability to zoom way into high-resolution images lets you examine detail, texture, technique.
In a way that's often difficult or even impossible in a crowded physical gallery.
Exactly. It really enhances the appreciation of the artwork itself.
And this is where it gets really interesting for me. The source mentions augmented reality experiences, AR.
Ah, yes. Superimposing art into your own environment.
Wow.
That really challenges conventional boundaries, doesn't it? Between
Okay.
the art space and your personal space.
Totally.
Viewing art becomes dynamic, interactive, even participatory in a way.
Yeah.
You're not just looking at it on a wall somewhere else. You're placing it, imagining it, interacting with it right there in your world.
So the takeaway for you, the listener, from this section is pretty clear then. Digital galleries aren't just online catalogs.
Not at all.
They are fundamentally changing how you can see, discover, maybe even afford, and definitely interact with art, breaking down those old barriers of location and exclusivity.
Okay, so now let's maybe transition to the underlying technological forces driving these changes.
Mm.
We can draw insights from the Nesta article for this. It uses the open processing platform as a really fascinating case study.
Right. And this article identifies three powerful digital phenomena that it says are becoming increasingly central to the arts.
What are they?
Open source tools, online creative communities, and digital social networks.
And what's insightful is how these aren't isolated trends, right? They sort of interlock and amplify each other.
How so?
Well, the source explains open source, meaning free, adaptable tools and code, with examples like processing, which is a coding language popular with artists,
Okay.
open frameworks, another creative coding toolkit, and even low-cost hardware like Arduino, which you see in installation art. These provide accessible building blocks for creators.
Got it. Building blocks. Then you have the online creative communities.
Yes, dedicated spaces for learning, collaboration, sharing work, like open processing itself, or platforms maybe more familiar to some listeners like GitHub for code, Stack Overflow for Q&A, Thingiverse for 3D designs, stuff like that.
And why are these communities so vital?
Because they provide the support structure, the collaborative environment that allows artists to learn how to use those open source tools effectively. And they can share their creations with others who understand and can build upon them, critique them.
Yeah, the social learning aspect. And finally, digital social networks. The big ones.
Yeah, the pervasive platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever's current. The source points out how these drastically reduce the cost, the friction of connecting with people. They're powerful engines for discovering both content and other artists.
And they've become major distribution routes for creative work too, haven't they?
Absolutely. They provide the broad reach and the discovery layer, connecting the output from those creative communities using the open source tools, connecting that to a much wider audience.
The article briefly mentions a social network analysis they did of open processing.
Yeah, it had some interesting observations, like finding a core group connecting most members, sort of hubs in the network, a very skewed follower distribution, meaning a few artists are super popular and many have far fewer followers, which is common online, right?
Yeah, the power law thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a general link, though variable, between producing more work and having more followers.
It even noted clusters that look like teacher-student relationships, showing how education happens informally within these digital spaces.
Informal learning networks.
Okay, so if we look at the bigger picture here, the Nesta article outlines three key implications these trends have for the future of the arts. What's the first one?
The first significant implication is the increasing importance of user experience UX, how easy and intuitive a platform is to use, and crucially, algorithms in content discovery.
Okay, what does that mean exactly for art? How does an algorithm impact art discovery?
Well, the source explains that how platforms are designed, what content they show you first, how they recommend things, that's heavily influenced by algorithms. These complex sets of rules derived from data could be your viewing history, what's popular globally, the structure of the social network on the platform.
Right.
So as artists rely more and more on these platforms to be seen, the design of the platform and the algorithms that govern it become incredibly powerful forces, They basically determine whose work succeeds, whose gets seen.
So the algorithm becomes a new kind of gatekeeper, maybe less visible than a gallery owner, but still powerful.
You could certainly see it that way. It's a new, less visible, but very influential force, shaping visibility and success.
Okay, second implication.
A growing focus on systematically understanding why and how creativity happens.
Like using data from these platforms to study creativity itself, is that what they mean?
Precisely. These online communities generate just vast amounts of data about creative activity, what tools people are using, how they collaborate, how ideas spread.
Right.
And this data allows researchers to study the conditions that stimulate creative output in these digital environments in a way they maybe couldn't before. The source suggests this trend is part of a broader, increasing recognition of creativity's importance across society. And digital platforms offer new ways to actually study it empirically.
That's fascinating. Studying the process of creativity through data trails. Okay, what's the third implication?
This one is perhaps the most provocative. The third implication is that data is becoming central to understanding aesthetics in art and design.
Data analyzing
Hmm.
beauty or aesthetics. How does that even work?
Well, the source discusses techniques like computer vision AI that can see and analyze images being used to analyze artistic content directly.
Okay.
This can involve measuring things like, say, originality by comparing it to other works, identifying influences between artworks, or tracking trends in visual styles over time, even in traditional paintings or sculptures, not just digital art.
So data isn't just tracking what people like viewing metrics, but potentially analyzing properties of the art itself, quantitatively.
Yes. Measuring stylistic features, complexity, novelty, things like that. And the article posits that this quantitative analysis of aesthetics and trends is likely to grow significantly.
And the implication of that is?
Well, this could eventually influence not just how art is studied or cataloged, but potentially how artists create.
How so?
Maybe responding, even subconsciously, to data-driven insights about what resonates, what's trending, what the algorithms might favor.
Wow. Okay. That really hammers home how these underlying tech shifts are changing, not just how art is shared or seen, but potentially how it's created, judged, and understood at a really fundamental level.
And before we wrap up, that revolutionizing access source also touched on two other critical areas impacted by digital galleries, worth mentioning quickly.
Yes, good point. Preservation and documentation?
Exactly. Digital archiving helps counter the physical decay of traditional artworks, ensuring their longevity, at least in a virtual space.
And the source mentioned the meticulous recording of artwork histories, too, including digital provenance.
hmm That verifiable history of ownership and origin, which is especially important for digital native art, of course.
Right. And the other point was education.
Yes, their role in education and public programs. Digital galleries are becoming pivotal platforms for educational resources. Think interactive artist talks, workshops, online courses.
Making cultural education much more accessible.
Totally. Bringing museum and gallery programs to a global audience,
Hmm.
regardless of location or, ability to travel.
Yeah.
Democratizing that access, too.
So, wow. We've really covered the spectrum here, haven't we?
I think so.
From specific platforms putting powerful business tools directly into creators' hands,
Hmm.
to the wholesale revolution in how you, the listener, can access, experience, and maybe even afford art globally.
And we've seen how those foundational digital forces, open source, communities, social networks, are driving those changes, leading to these really profound implications for how creative content gets discovered, how creativity itself is studied, and how aesthetics might be analyzed and understood through data in the future.
Yeah, it's crystal clear that digital technology isn't just, putting art online. It's fundamentally rewiring the entire art ecosystem, from the individual artist right up through global discovery and even the academic study of aesthetics.
Which leaves us with this thought to maybe ponder, pulling from the threads we discussed,
Yeah.
especially that growing role of algorithms in discovery and data in aesthetic analysis.
Okay.
If algorithms increasingly shape which art we see, and data is used more and more to measure traits like originality or influence, what does our source material suggest this might mean for how art is created, and maybe even how we ultimately understand what makes art art in the future?